T.H.CooneyArt here. Some of you are probably wondering, what the hell was that? Well, I hope you enjoyed that. That was the Animal Choir, something that I've been working on for quite some time and inspired by quite a few things. Shall we talk about them? First of all, big congratulations to my wonderful orchestra, who isn't really there. Let me tell you a little bit about what inspired this video. You could say the major inspiration came from the Salmon Dance by the Chemical Brothers. Link here. This video featured a pufferfish doing the bass, and I really loved that idea. It was so clever, even though a pufferfish probably never makes that noise. So you can imagine I picked a pufferfish for my animal choir to do the major bass behind this track. Yeah, it's easy to argue that pufferfish don't make any noise at all, but hell with it, this one's beatboxing! But this is a very complex track, Killer by Seal and created by Adamski. So I wanted to add a lot more animals in there because there are so many instruments in this track, and I really started imagining and getting to work really rapidly on coming up with animals that I know that could possibly make those noises, or animals that would at least look interesting making the noises even if they didn't. For example, the anglerfish, they don't make any noise at all. That would just look really cool because it's like sci-fi and celestial chimes. I only made them make that noise because of a particular David Attenborough wildlife program called The Deep, which focused on the bioluminescent creatures that lived way down in the darkness, 2 or 3 miles below the sea, where it's so dark that their eyes are enormous and they use these bioluminescent bulbs that come out of their heads to communicate or attract prey. And the show featured weird sound effects that came along with their blinking lights, so I took inspiration from that and created the anglerfish. You've got American Bittens doing the major bass. I think that was a great idea for drums and stuff, because the pufferfish actually does sound like that, as we see in this episode of Life of Birds, Signals and Songs, also narrated by David Attenborough. I suppose a frog in there can add a little bit more bass, it's a bit more electronic and disco-like. And we all love frilled lizards. I had a hard time finding out if they actually hiss, and it turns out they did, as we see in this very entertaining video here. I thought, what else could make the noise of an electric guitar other than the wings of a fly? Perfect, I thought. The bit at the beginning of the song, just before the major beat takes place, you know, the sound that goes... And a fascinating fact, that can also be heard just before the beginning of the Be Prepared song from Lion King, sung by Scar. It may sound like rubbing 2 pennies together, but I figured a cricket or a locust could make the same sound. I thought of this great idea to have a couple of cockatoos making the clonking noise that takes place now and again. Although some people argue that this noise is Seal or another singer going, yeah! I decided it sounded like an eagle screaming really loud, so what better than an eagle screaming into a megaphone? You got capercaillies doing the percussions, spider legs, the wolf spider to be precise, because the wolf spider can actually make noises with its legs, and it sounds really fascinating. Check this out. How famous has the kakapo become ever since that video where it was Getting It On with Stephen Fry? Well, these birds probably make some of the deepest and loudest bass-filmed booms you've ever heard. They inflate themselves to the size of exercise balls and just go boom, 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 and echo their call across the valley to attract females. So that thumping beat in the massive instrumental had to be done by them. Plus a secretary bird to stomp its feet, because that's got quite a powerful thump to it. Ever since I heard this song as a kid, I always thought that this sound were a couple of wolves. So, wolves! The Temminck's trackerpan was one of my favourite birds because it has this brilliant vest, though not as brilliant as my scarf. It jerks its head down and makes a sort of snapping noise, kind of like a snare drum, so I figured that's the perfect noise for the snare drum just before the final chorus. And this thing is really funny. It stands up like a soldier and just moves its feet round really quickly and runs after the female. I don't know how it attracts a female. It must scare the poor thing off. I wasn't sure what to do about the strings, and I thought, you know, it's a pretty common sound. Almost every song has them. Smooth Criminal, Game of Thrones, and of course this. So what better thing to use than the most common form of natural singing? Birds. And what's the most beautiful sounding bird in the world that we know? The nightingale. So a choir of nightingales to mimic the strings. I have to say I'm super proud of this piece. It took a long time to make, mainly because there was so much animation involved. There's so many things moving here and so many special effects. I let my imagination go crazy. So a lot of things I had to do without because it would just take months and months, maybe years to render. Just wasn't worth it. And then all this filming as well. This was quite an ambitious project. I hope you like it. Nah. A question some of you might be asking, why didn't I just use the lyrebird? Because this bird makes all kinds of noises. It's got such a brilliant voice box, it can mimic all kinds of noises. I wanted the challenge of coming up with animals that made these noises and trying to make them as close as possible. So there you have it, the Animal Choir, my latest and greatest animation. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!